So, hi everyone. My name is Laura Benegatti, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the ArtBound Initiative. ArtBound Initiative is a global career accelerator for students, fresh grads who are trying to, you know, enter the creative industries and start their career in the creative industries. And so we offer a program that, is a bit of a mix of some courses around professional development that also has an internship component for you to be able to gain some skills in the real life world, and that is all about community and networks. And so that is in this mission that we're always trying to bring cool content, real content with great people, so that you all can get a step closer to landing those opportunities. So today we are going to have a workshop on how to craft a winning portfolio. I want to tell you a little bit more about the event, how it's going to work. So we are going to go through some great portfolio do's and don'ts with our speaker today, Kevin, that I'm going to introduce in a second, where you'll get a little bit of an overview of what to do, what not to do, from a creative director. And I'm pretty sure some real insights from Kevin, because usually pretty direct about about what to kind of get on. And then we will start, taking some of your questions as well for Kevin. In the middle of this workshop, I will do a program introduction about ArtBound Initiative. I'll tell you a little bit more about what our program is for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get back to a Q&A with Kevin. And I want to make sure that you all are getting all your questions answered. So about our speaker today and about Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much for being here. So Kevin is actually one of our coaches at ArtBound Initiative. We're so thankful to have him, really guide our participants. Kevin is a creative director out of Dallas, Texas, with over a decade of experience working for brands, like Samsung, Audi, FedEx, and Krispy Kreme. Kevin, you've won numerous national Addys, and you've been also published in like graphic design and poster annuals, and you've been listed as well among Lurzer's Lurzer's International Archive's 200 Best Illustrators Worldwide, among so many other things. You have also an incredible YouTube channel. You've published a book. I mean, we'll talk a bit about it, but we're so thankful to have you here. So thanks, Kevin. I'm gonna pass it on to you now, I guess. Let me stop sharing my screen. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Let's do this. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So, as Laura mentioned, we are here for portfolio do's and don'ts and crafting that portfolio. As mentioned, I am Kevin. I'm a creative director. I work for an agency called Tracy Locke under the Omnicom umbrella. And I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of great clients and a lot of great brands, anywhere from JBL headphones to Samsung to Tito's Vodka to FedEx and Pizza Hut and Krispy Kreme and all the things. So a lot of cross industry experience that's been really great because it's kind of that constant challenge, not just working, in different roles throughout my career, but also working on different unique brands. And they each come with their own consumers and their own challenges and all those things. And I love it. I love what I do. I love it so much that I have a YouTube channel called Open Door Creative. There's around 150 videos now helping people get into the industry. Very similar initiative and purpose as ArtBound itself, because I really care about this thing and I want everyone else to enjoy what I enjoy about doing what I do. So trying to give the things you might not learn in the university classroom kind of a place to shine and live. But some people are visual, viewers. Other people learn by reading. So I did make a book called Breaking into Art Direction. Really kind of a complementary material to schooling. Also a great resource if you're trying to build a portfolio on the side, need a few extra projects. There's a lot of creative briefs that are found throughout this book as well to essentially build that portfolio up and make it as strong and as big and as awesome as it can possibly be. Because your portfolio is everything. It is the single most important thing. It's your culmination, your body of work. It's all your experience, all of your skill sets, kind of like in one spot, right? Ultimately, your portfolio should be a representation of who you are as an artist, a designer, a writer, a creative in general, no matter what discipline you decide to kind of pursue. And it's what ultimately will determine this one thing if a CD or a hiring manager gives you that call on the phone or email these days to be considered to be brought in for an interview, right? To me, this thing is like 10 times more important than a resume. Your portfolio is absolutely everything. But it's not just something you make to get the job and then you're done with it. A portfolio will be there for the long haul. So it is a constantly changing, breathing thing that will consistently change throughout your career. Some projects will leave, some new projects will enter, and it will continue to evolve right along with you. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, some friends in the industry that I know that I'm not going to call by name, but start to stop editing their portfolio until they need a job. And I vastly think that your portfolio should be continued to be edited and continue to put the stuff into it, not even when you're just seeking for a job, because we are in a field that is relatively subjective. And because of that, it comes with a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of doubt. And your portfolio sometimes is that reminder that you don't suck. You're actually pretty good. You've done some cool things, which is important to remind yourself from time to time. So if you couldn't tell, I care a lot about this thing, and a portfolio is extremely, extremely crucial, which is why I'm going to quickly spiel about some things that I think are pertinent to your own. First off, the portfolio structure. This isn't going to be some game-changing slides coming up, but it is important to note is that your portfolio will look a little something like this. These are the bones of a portfolio. It's a nice old grid of projects, all the things that you've done. It should be simple and clean and at least have, at a minimum, these three things, which is a home page, a work section, so these different project pages, and then ultimately that about page as your last page as well. But I will jump right into the to-dos for the sake of time. And the first to do is your portfolio has to, there is no way around it. It has to be a website. PDF portfolios are not okay in this day and age. If you send that to a recruiter, the chance of them downloading that thing onto their own computer is like zero. You might get one straggler, but I assure you that if it is a quick link that they can get to quickly, send quickly to other people that need to see it, that is how you are going to actually get it noticed and viewed in general. There are many, many options out there. You do not have to be a professional coder anymore to make a portfolio. You can even spend a single weekend on a portfolio, make it pretty badass, make it pretty good. You can use sites like Squarespace, Wix, Adobe Portfolio, Drop, even Carbon Made, just to name a few. And they're really quick and easy builders to input your work. If you've ever uploaded something to social media, it's almost as easy. Next up, only show your best stuff. So the rub is when you send your portfolio to a recruiter or a CD, they are only going to spend between 3 and 5 minutes on that portfolio, which is not a lot of time, right? And if a reviewer clicks on any random project in your portfolio, you want to be happy with the thing that got clicked on, right? Which typically means they're going to get somewhere around 3 projects in general. So if you have 8 projects and say you kind of don't like 3 of them, but you like the other ones, well, what if that recruiter clicks on those 3 that you didn't want them to click on, right? And that's a problem. That's an issue. You won't be putting your best foot forward, which is super important. So when it comes to your portfolio, make sure you're self-editing, only show your very best stuff. Next up, how many projects is enough? This is probably the most common question I get. And if I didn't cover it in this, it would probably come up in Q&A. The industry says there's no magic number. They say you can have however much it is to do the job. They're lying. You need 5 to 6 projects, essentially enough work to be able to show a range of skill sets, right? Showing range of projects, show diversity in industry. And speaking of range, I'll just kind of double tap on that again. You want to show that range in clients, right? Can you take on any project that comes your way from a large durable brand like you're selling a Samsung fridge? Can you take on a small disposable product like Crest toothpaste? Very different products, very different campaigns. And so it's important to show that you can really tackle a variety of different different products and services across the industry. Show range and style. So it's great to be a one-hit wonder designer who you have your own particular style, but you also have to be able to flex and fluctuate as well from project to project. We've looked at a lot of ads out there in the world, and a campaign for Coke does not look the same as a campaign for Oreo, right? They just don't. They look completely different. They're saying different things. They look a lot different. So try to vary up your style from campaign to campaign too. You want to show a range of media or execution and tactics too, right? From print to digital to out of home to social to experiential. Try to really show all the things and really filter that idea that you have through a 360-degree lens that shows that you're strategic and you're able to build out concepts with a lens that can do more, right? You ultimately want to reach your target audience wherever they are. And your audience is probably not just on one thing. They go out there into the world, they come home, they get on the internet, they watch TV, they do a lot of things. And so how can all of those touch points kind of work together to create the most cohesive campaign and be most effective for your target? Next up, you want to show your work in the best light. So I've seen too many portfolios recently where they've got little itty bitty thumbnails that are kind of hard to see and I have to squint or zoom like crazy. Make that work big and impactful. We are in a visual communication field, so don't be afraid to make imagery big. It should be big. It should be really big as this slide. Organize, order, and present that work too in a very easily digestible way, right? We're telling quick stories here through words and visuals to ultimately lead that viewer seamlessly down your page again in only that 3 to 5 minutes, which is important to try to stick to if you can. But we can't just talk about the do's. We got to talk about the don'ts too. First one is don't make it hard to find things. User experience is super crucial. I would even forgo a splash page before it gets to the project grid. I would go right to the project grid. It's just one extra click, not worth it, in my opinion. That 3 to 5 minutes that we mentioned earlier, you want to get them in and out and happy with takeaways that make them want to take you off of the job market, right? That's the ultimate goal. And so get them in, out with what they need as fast as possible. Don't be afraid of experimentation. That is the stuff that makes you stand out. So if you're a designer, design a lot. From styles to media to execution, don't be afraid to play around. If you are a writer, write, right? That means long form content. That means short form, headlines, publications, social media. Really experiment across the gamut of everything you can do. It really just adds more tools to your toolbox. And that experimentation is what is going to allow us to see that you think differently than somebody else on our team. And I think that's vastly important to recognize from even this early on in the process. Next up, don't get too wordy. I can ramble better than anybody, but this is not a place to get long-winded. Respect your viewers' time. There is no need for paragraphs upon paragraphs of what you did on a project. They won't read them, if I'm being honest. But it is important to keep things pretty bite-sized and concise. To me, 3 to 5 sentences usually does the job, saying what your role was in the project, talking about what the project was and how you approached it. If you do want to go to a little bit more in depth, make sure to break it up with visuals. So down the page, you are telling a story during the scroll, and that helps a lot too. Now, the caveat to this is if you are a PR student or you are a writer, there's obviously wiggle room, right? You have to use words. That's part of your job, right? So for you guys, for those words and case studies and things like that, it's super kosher. You can get a little bit more long-winded if you see fit. Next up, don't sleep on the about section. If you've seen any video of mine, if you've been in portfolio sessions with me, if you've been in any of the ArtBound material that I have been a part of, you have seen this reiterated. And that is because the about section is the most underrated section in a portfolio. Your resume says what you've done. Your work shows what you've done, literally. But what those two things don't do is they don't tell me really about you, the person that I'm going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. And that's extremely important to get across. Too many sections sound a little something like this. I'm an extremely passionate designer who loves art and strives to push my creativity daily. That's super great. That's super cool. That's super neat. But everyone is saying that. And if you think that after I review 20 to 30 portfolios in a day, that I'm going to remember that about section, you're wrong. Now, if you talk about, you have a background in dance, and so you understand the importance of discipline and hard work, and you start to relate some of that stuff back to your story, and how it kind of, also alludes to what you're doing for your creative job too. That stuff is something that's a little bit more interesting and that I can relate to. Showing your personality, your quirks, what makes you you, your interests, all of those things definitely apply. Ultimately, professionalism is one thing, but realness is a whole nother thing. And I promise you that authenticity wins more than it loses. Guaranteed. Next up, don't hide your contact form. Make sure that contact button is everywhere on your site, easily accessible. Back to that one about make it not hard to find things. I think this is one of those cases. Make everything super, super easy. So ultimately, just a quick overview. Do's: make a portfolio website. Show your best stuff. Have at least 5 to 6 projects. Show range in your work. Showcase your work effectively. Don't make things hard to find. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't get too wordy in descriptions. Don't sleep on that about section. And don't hide that contact form. Please don't. But that's a little bit about me. It's nice to meet everyone. There is a contact form on my site, Open Door Creative. You can find me on LinkedIn. I connect with I'll connect with pretty much anybody, unless you spam and give me a reason not to. Do have the YouTube channel if you're interested in learning more. And of course, the book on Amazon, $19.99. Check it out. But I'll pass it back to Laura.
Thanks, Kevin. I love that. I think you always have like such just great advice for our participants. Let me ask you, like, obviously, and of course, I want everybody to start asking you questions as well in the chat for Kevin about portfolio. And obviously, you're also having a creative director here on this call. So if you have questions about recruitment in general for creatives, I think this is a good place to put it in. But Kevin, tell us a little bit more, just very briefly, like, how did you start in the industry? Like, what was like, what were your first internships? Like, how did you get,
Yeah.
obviously, everybody wants to be a creator, everybody wants your title, right? So at least a lot of people, a lot of my participants want your title. So tell us a bit about your journey briefly.
Yeah, my story is one of patience. I did not get where I am overnight. Another thing I'll say too, I think my biggest regret is at each promotion level, not sitting in it and like understanding that like it's not just about, oh, now I did that. Well, how can I get to the next thing? If you really sit with it, you will grow so much faster. And I've learned that later in my career. I wish I would have learned that earlier. But my start, I changed majors 3 times. I went to the University of Texas. I started off in architecture. Loved design from an early age, but thought that was kind of the move. Then went to psychology because I really liked to see how the human brain worked. Kind of merged those things like human behavior with design, and that was advertising. So that got me kind of interested in this sphere. I was in the portfolio program at the University of Texas, Texas Creative. Did a lot of campaigns. My first semester, I did not make it to the next class, which was really unfortunate. Only 50% of people made it. And so I had to really buckle down. I did retake it and said, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. And I just worked really, really hard and got the top score that year. So second time's a charm. Started off as an unpaid intern, required to work 20 hours a week at a small shop in Austin called Screamer Co. Worked 40 plus easy, maybe up to 60 hours unpaid because I just wanted to get better. I knew I had to get better, and that was the way to do it. And then went over to Dallas, have been at Tracy Locke for about 11 years now, just over 10. I think my anniversary just happened. And just kind of rose up the ladder, have a lot of great people that were, invested in me and my growth. And so it's been really hard to leave that because that also is very valuable. A lot of people will also money chase early in their career, which I totally understand. Like we like money. Money is a good thing. But if you have people that are truly invested in you that can help you grow year after year and you see the growth,
Yeah.
There's nothing more valuable than that.
For sure. And I love that you stayed so long in the agency because typically a lot of designers and creatives like have a very quick turnaround, right? They stay 2 years in an agency, they get burnt out, they move to another agency, they get burnt out, they move to another agency. So
100%.
it
Yep.
means
And it's not always greener either. We've had people that have bounced agencies and been back the next week. It was crazy. I promise you that happened.
I love that. I love that. And then I guess I'm going to start taking questions and then I'll fill in with some of my questions as well. I've got a question from Justin. Thanks, Justin, for asking. What's the number one thing people look for when recruiting in the creative agency? I think that's a great question. It was kind of one of my questions. Like, what are you, maybe even specifically towards juniors, if you don't mind, because I think this is
Sure.
kind of our population here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple things. Out of the person, we're looking for hunger and passion. Even the most skilled person and designer ever could kind of suck to work with, to be honest with you. You want the person that's going to come in, really want to be a sponge and learn and grow and really try to make something on your team. And that those people always do better. My friend at my agency and I always talk about, we would rather not the superstar, but like the role player that is just awesome, that really puts in the work, and that fire ultimately leads them to out surpass that person who might have been so skilled, right? From a portfolio standpoint, I would say that range is the most important thing. Obviously, with with AI entering the chat, things have definitely changed, and I think embracing that change is also important to see. So whether you're playing with AI or you're experimenting with After Effects and motion, and you're just trying other things, it's great to see that stuff, because not everybody at an agency has those skills. And so if you're able to be like, oh, like maybe you just taste tested a lot of things. You're maybe not the most, proficient ever in a particular thing, but you have a working knowledge of a little bit of everything. I think early on that really serves you well, because you'll learn a lot by just taking on projects. But if you have at least a little bit of experience in different avenues, it just makes you more multidimensional and more hireable.
And I love that you're saying that, because I think a lot of a lot of juniors think that they need to be very niche and specialized right from the get, and that they need to have like a very strong creative aesthetic or style on their portfolio. But actually, it's cool to hear that actually what you're looking for is range, so that they can adapt, right? They can kind of be a plug and play right away, right? Instead of like a specific style.
Yeah, because I'll say that too. Like you have a specific style, then you get in and you're on a tech brand or something that doesn't have that style at all, and then like it's a little harder to judge those people. Where if you did show a range in styles, and quite frankly just different target markets within your portfolio, then it's like when someone comes in, ultimately they're judging your portfolio, they're going to find the work in your portfolio that is most similar to the work that they have, right?
Right.
That just makes
Right.
sense, that you're going to easily be able to integrate. So you broaden your aperture and your chance of having similar work if you have a lot of it that's
Yeah.
different.
For sure. No, I think this is like something that really changed a lot of my perspective when I'm also coaching some of our participants for portfolio. So I have a question from Tyra, who's saying, when making a website portfolio, does it matter if you coded it yourself or if you used a website such as Squarespace to create it? Will the employer consider this better or worse depending on which one you use to make the website?
Great question. Only if you're a UI UX designer. If you are a graphic designer, art director, writer, anything else, Squarespace is super, super kosher. If you look up most creative director down to art director within agencies, they're all using the same stuff. I've seen so many portfolios that are using the same template that I'm using. I'm like, oh, that looks familiar. I know what that is. So you will not be judged negatively on that. It does depend on how you customize it a little bit and make it your own. Obviously, you want to put your own personal branding and your own touch to your portfolio, so it shouldn't look like the exact template. So as long as you customize it a little bit, make it your own, you're good. Again, unless you're UI UX, then I want to see that portfolio as a UI UX exercise and project, just as if it was a different project that you were taking on.
Right, right. And I think you said that to a lot of our UI UX participants before, like, if you're a UI UX designer, your website better have a really good workflow, right?
Yeah,
Because it's how you're
yeah.
tested on, right?
Well, it'll be crazy. Like I'll look at a UX portfolio and that has really great work in it. But they're not following the same UX principles to their own site itself. It was hard for me to find something. Things were below the scroll. Button sizes were too small. It wasn't responsive. And I'm like, what's happening? Like, I know you could do it, but they're not treating their portfolio the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I have a question from Yudita who's saying, I'm a bachelor student trying to land my first design internship. I know you said a website is key, but is it also okay to have a Behance portfolio just for starting out? And then there's a second part of the question. Also, when making the portfolio, what key pages would you put in each project? So maybe two section question. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Behance answer, I'm going to give you the honest one, which is please just make the website. It only takes a weekend, I promise you. Behance is fine for a quick fix. I would think of it more of like as a social networking platform to get inspired by from other designers, to share your work with other designers. But as we talked earlier about that customization aspect and making it just a little bit your own, you don't have the ability to really do that on Behance. So I would recommend just investing a little bit of extra money. If there's one thing you're going to invest in your career, it's the portfolio. So please, do so. Again, it takes almost as little time as making a Behance site too. It is not as crazy as you might think. The learning curve is low, and again, you can make it in a week at the latest, and it will go a long way. As it pertains to projects or sections, I think I want to make sure I'm understanding the question correctly, but making sure that you have the key things. You have work sections that are divided by project, so that someone can click to go a lot deeper. Now, if you made like a poster design, that doesn't deserve its own section altogether, because again, that's one click for that reviewer. And then if that's the only thing in there, they're like, oh, it's not as deep as they would like. You can have a design section if you want that goes a little deeper and shows all of your posters and things. Then maybe you have a branding section, and then you have a project section that was an editorial piece that you created or a social media campaign. And all of those deserve their own spots. But I would see your portfolio almost as a block of houses. Each project lives in a house. And if you were to go in that house and there's just one project sitting in the living room and all the other rooms are empty, you'd be like, that's not enough for this house. You don't need this house. Get an apartment. And then similarly, when we talk about self-editing, you may enter that street and be like, oh, I want this new project to move in. Well, if you have too many projects, maybe one has to move out for that new one to move into the street. And so try to think of it a little bit like that. And that will get you kind of the best case scenario result for your own.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. And by the way, thank you all for all the questions. I'm seeing like so many great questions in the chat, so we're gonna try to get through all of them. So I have a question from Hridika who's saying, what type of projects can be included in a portfolio as a bachelor student? Like, can they be individual projects done in university classes, for example, or do they only have to be like team projects or only industry experience projects? This is a great question because
Yeah.
you have a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mix and match wherever a good project comes from. If you have a great project in a university classroom, say there's a big typography project and you had to make your own typeface and you had to utilize that typeface in a numerous amount of ads, and you're proud of that project. Ultimately, that's really the goal is, are you proud? Is it a good representation of you? Did you enjoy it? Do you like it? Put it in your portfolio. If you're like, oh, my university doesn't really have as many projects as I would like, do projects on the side, have fun, pick your favorite band, make a band poster, pick your favorite brand. Say you're like, oh, I love Camelback. I don't know, maybe you love Camelback. Then you're like, I'm going to make a whole campaign about this water bottle, and I'm going to make print ads, and I'm going to make social posts, and I'm going to make whatever. You create your own projects. And if you're desperate, I have that book on Amazon, 1999, with a bunch of creative briefs. So use that to fill it up as well.
Love this. Yeah. And I think also like there's a lot to talk about. We could talk about spec projects that I know you've been like really talking about a lot. But definitely add your best stuff, right? I think that's
Yep.
pretty much the bottom line. I'll take one last question before I'll do a short break to introduce the program, and afterwards we'll get back to your questions because there's so many good ones. So I have a question from Megan who's saying, I'm a year out from having gotten my bachelor's, and I'm struggling to find my place in the working world as a creative, just hungry to learn and showcase my best with little experience. I want to be able to get in the room somewhere, but I only have little graphics to show. Would you suggest creating mock-ups to show potential employers what I'm capable of?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's what your portfolio is, right? It's your proof points. So whether it's mock-ups or you're creating fake projects, spec work, say, hey, you're gonna jump on. There's a lot of freelance websites out there too, like freelancer.com, where you can take on projects. You may not make a ton of money on those projects, but it's real world experience, right? You're getting a real client, you're getting a real project, you're going to execute against that project to the best of your ability. And yeah, you'll get paid a little something, but ultimately you're getting paid with a project to put inside your portfolio and make it better and better. When you have minimal graphic design, skill or projects, it's just about taking tutorials and doing one project at a time. Again, you're going to do a lot of them. You're going to get better over time. You may look back at your first one and be like, oh, that kind of sucked. I don't like it anymore. And that's okay. And that's normal. And we've all been there. I remember reviewing my first portfolio ever. I did that like on the YouTube channel, and I was like, oh man, like good try, little me. Like it was, you could definitely tell the guy needed to open up Illustrator and stop creating illustrations in Photoshop, because it was a little scary. But yeah, ultimately just one project at a time to test your skills. There's also a lot of great Instagram accounts that have little briefs, like daily briefs and things. And sometimes just challenging yourself to say, hey, I'm going to do one of these little briefs a week. Maybe it's creating a logo for a cat food brand or something. Just make. And the more you make, the more comfortable you're going to get, and your portfolio is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
I love that. I love that. And we all have to start somewhere, right? So let's
Yep.
also not like stress out like in an incredible amounts, because
Exactly.
you all are juniors. So we're also understanding that this is, this is the beginning. So let me do a little break to kind of introduce, just for like 5 to 10 minutes what the program is. I have some of my participants here on this call, so bear with me because you all know already what this is, but there's a lot of people, a lot of you who might not know a little bit more about what we're doing. So just in brief, what ArtBound Initiative does, we work with amazing people like Kevin and other coaches to help support students and fresh grads who are trying to get into the creative industries. We have different programs all over the world, 3 in the US, in New York, Chicago, and LA, London and Berlin in Europe, and Melbourne and Sydney in Australia. We also have a remote program if you, for example, are in North Carolina and don't necessarily want to relocate or have the funds to relocate to one of those cities, because obviously we're in cool cities but expensive ones. We have a lot of different types of opportunities that we offer, because our program also includes an internship so that you can really apply all your learnings in a real life setting. We have opportunities in entertainment and media, in design, in marketing, advertising, content writing, fine arts, fashion. This is a bit of a laundry list of all the internships that we have. I'm not going to talk about them right now, but you all are welcome to check out our website if you want to see a little bit more about what we do. In terms of the program and kind of the main key things that we offer, it's like, one, we have an academy that's online. And by the way, I see some of my participants also here who did the program a couple of years back, so it changed a lot since you did it. So you might have some updates here. So we have an academy now, which is online courses, basically, that is all focusing on pragmatic stuff, which is basically launching your career and how to get there. The second aspect is that if you get accepted into the program, you'll get a guaranteed internship offer within your field of interest. The third aspect is that you're getting access to a community and a creative network with, awesome people like Kevin, but also so many of our alumni who are amazing people and who's made it pretty far in this industry as well. And then you'll get a lot of support from our team as the last element. In terms of the academy, Kevin, you're right there. Actually, I'm just seeing you on the little graphic. The academy has two kind of components. The first one is really preparing your profile, teaching you how to interview with senior recruiters, getting critiqued, for example, on your portfolio from someone like Kevin that's going to take a look at your portfolio and provide you the feedback personalized. getting to talk to resume writers as well, who's going to help you to put together your resume. So we're preparing you for that recruitment process, which is going to be good for your internships with us, but also just for jobs in the future. The second part of the program, which is our second module, is all about getting ready for your internship and just the industry in general. So you're going to be able to get on different sessions, live sessions with industry experts, again, like Kevin and like others, to kind of talk and get some real insider perspective of the, of the industry. You'll be able to learn about tools on how to prepare for your internships, how to find jobs after the internships, just again, a lot of the things that you need to know, like entering the workforce 101, if I could say it, like things that I wish we all knew. I probably, you and me, Kevin, things we wish we knew when we first started, like in the first couple of years at least. So that's what our academy focuses on. It's all online and you can do it on top of your classes. We've built it that way. We have like awesome coaches. Obviously, Kevin in the middle right there, people from Warner Brothers, from MTV, from Ralph Lauren, from like big, recruitment agencies. So we're trying to get really cool people to talk to you and to advise you. In terms of the second aspect, the guaranteed internship program, we have internships year round, fall, spring, summer. So you can do it throughout the year. 3 to 6 months typically is what we're doing in terms of length. You can do it part-time or full-time. You can do it for academic credit or not. The one thing and the one caveat that I want to say is that we can't guarantee paid internships. As much as I wish we could, we work with a variety of companies, some boutique, maybe some bigger, but not all of them are offering paid opportunities. So if an unpaid internship is a deal breaker for you, we totally get it, but that's not the right program then to join. Just want to be pretty transparent about that. But the other side of it is that we've had a pretty good conversion in terms of our interns, specifically who did as seniors or fresh grads and who got hired after their internships, probably because we prepare them like crazy and also we select them. So yeah, that's a little bit more about the internships. We've had, really big companies that we've worked with in the past, but we also work actually almost primarily with smaller boutique firms, mid-sized firms, where you can get a lot of exposure. Examples of like Spring Studios in New York, which is a great agency with like a bunch of opportunities in design and advertising. Production firms, for example, in Chicago, Picture North, a really cool post-production company as well. Factory PR in LA, where you have opportunities in PR, social. Raptor, really cool marketing agency in London, with opportunities in strategy, content, advertising. We also work in fine arts, like for example, in Art Gallery Somos in Berlin, with opportunities in cultural management. Milkman, really dope creative agency in Melbourne, like very young culture and really fun clients. And then Collider Production Studio in Sydney. That's just kind of a tiny selection for you to get a bit of a look and feel of some of those companies that you might not have heard of, but that we work with. In terms of the support, if you're going overseas, let's say you're in the US, you want to go to London or you want to go to Berlin or you want to go to Australia or vice versa, we're going to handle for you all the visa processing, the insurance, the housing, basically all the relocation, which is a bit of a hassle. And that's actually why I launched the program back in the days, because I was from Paris and I went to New York and it was such a hassle to immigrate to the US and do an internship there. So hoping to help you guys on that as much as we can. And then on top of this, whichever program you're doing, if you're doing it locally, virtually, or internationally, you'll be really having our support from our coordinators, from onboarding to setting up interviews with firms, to preparing your resume, your portfolio, the visa paperwork, everything. And then we also have in-studio or coordinators. If you're doing your internship in New York, for example, you'll have a bunch of events that we're organizing. You'll have someone as well on the ground to meet you up. So that's a little bit more about kind of the support system. And then the last part of the program is really the access to our creative community, and to me that's the long game. And really what you're investing in, the same way that in your universities you're paying your tuition and investing also into the alumni network, not just the degree. Please remember that. So you're getting access to our app, which is a lifetime membership. I think we have some alumni here on this call. So you're having access to webinars, to job like boards, and most importantly to our people. Which is really convenient because you can chat with each other, you can exchange potentially like get jobs from each other. So we've got, you know, people that went into freelancing, into doing their own thing, into small firms, into big firms like Apple or NBC or CBS, or, you know, people that went to Saatchi and Saatchi, for example, to Netflix, to Google, to TikTok, to L'Oreal. So those are like just a few examples of alumni who went there, and those are the people that you can connect with and basically grow together with, right? That's the important part. So last kind of couple slides, how to apply. If you are interested in the program, you can go through our website. You can take a look at all the information there, including our tuition as well. We have also scholarship opportunities. So really important for you to look into the financials also of the program. You know, as any educational program, it has a cost. So you want to take a look at it, see if it's viable, see if it's something that you're interested in. If you are interested, you submit an application form, you have an interview with our team, and then we let you know whether you're accepted or not into the program. Two deadlines that I want to mention for you all. I think we have primarily people from the US and from Australia on this call. So for our Australian people, if you are interested in going overseas for the summer, which the summer for you is November, I know for the US, for our US crowd is going to be like, what? It's inverted seasons. So if you are interested in a summer internship overseas, just make sure that you apply before June 10. That's really important. We're in advance for the program, specifically international. For our US crew who's here, if you are interested in internships in the US, for example, in New York, Chicago, LA, for the fall, make sure you apply by June 10. Okay, so just a heads up for you all. Last steps, if you want to check on our website, go check if you're eligible to the program, because not everybody's eligible. So maybe input your major, what you're doing, what you want to do, and we can let you know whether it's possible. If you're ready to apply, go ahead and apply. And then one last thing that I want to mention is we have a cool last workshop series event tomorrow with a creative recruiter, a senior creative recruiter from Aquant, which is one of the largest staffing agencies, who's going to talk about how to navigate the job market. So that's going to be also really, really cool, I guess, program. So we'll add the link in the chat. So just wanted to kind of give you a little bit. Kevin, maybe you know, I mean, you've been a coach with us for, is it a couple years now?
Yeah, like at least two. It
Crazy.
feels long and short at the same time.
I
But yeah,
know, I know.
a lot of people.
A lot of people that you've chatted with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're super thankful to have you, you know, obviously as a coach. And I think you've been like, you know, so instrumental for a lot of our designers, right? So really appreciate you. A little moment of appreciation as well. And for you to also bring content to everybody, because not everybody's joining the program, but you're still here bringing content to all of us. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to go back to some questions because there's so many, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's another question from Megan who's asking, like, also, is Canva a good website builder? I have used that too, but is there a better one? If there's a better one, I'll use it.
Yeah. So Canva's a tricky thing in the design world, right? A lot of people see Canva as like the anti-design thing. I think if you use Canva correctly, you can utilize it for things similar to, you know, a website and stuff. I can't say I've had too much experience in Canva website building, though I have built some products and things on Canva. Particularly for our FedEx client, because they have a partnership. So we do have to use some Canva resources to design, you know, products for small businesses and things like that. But as it pertains to a website builder, I still would go with something that at least has a because I don't know exactly how the domain system is on Canva. But you definitely want like a very unique domain name to yourself, as long as it doesn't say like /Canva at whatnot. I think you're probably okay. But the industry standard, I would say, would still be to play around on Squarespace or Wix or one of those others. I think that's the thing that's going to give you the best results. It's also going to just be, it's more tried and true. Like you want something you want a site that's going to look good on mobile, looks good on a tablet, looks good on your desktop, and you can guarantee those things through those templates that are constantly being updated and refreshed. And you know, even from type choice, you know, there's a lot of things that you can just customize like crazy, you know, utilizing those builders. So I still would prefer those other builders if it was me. Um,
Yeah.
but I can't say I've done enough research into Canva website builder to be able to have a huge opinion against it.
Right, right. And actually, that takes me to a related question from Tavis, who's asking, like, is Adobe Portfolio good? Basically, like, I think that's another type of website, right? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have had success with it. It's one of those. So, like, I'm obviously most fluent in Squarespace because I've been using it for the past 10 years. So
Right,
it's hard for me to give too much insight into it other than what other people are doing. And people have had success with Adobe Portfolio and creating, unique stuff to them. So I definitely think it's a great option. I would not, shoo it away. It's definitely right up there with the other ones. So yeah, think totally valid.
great. So I have a question from HK who's saying, I'm currently a first year student studying interaction design. Would it be beneficial to begin learning tools such as Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, and similar softwares at this stage?
Sure, I think so. The earlier you can get in on it, the better. If I could give my old self advice, it would have been to start a lot earlier.
Right,
I did take a little like graphics course in high school and wish I would have like committed to it a little bit more. There are children of friends in the industry that, they see their parents doing it and they're like, oh, that looks fun. I get to like make art for a living. That's cool. So they're starting in Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign at like the age of 10, and they are going to be complete assassins when they get up into the ad world,
yeah,
with so much experience. So I don't think it's ever too early to start learning. And I think that's also important so that you can taste test, right?
right,
You want to be able to take tutorials and see if this thing excites you or if you don't like it. I think it's important to love what you do. I really do. You're working most of your life. So if you can get in there early and be like, oh, I enjoy this tool or I don't enjoy this tool, that's good to know now.
right,
Ultimately, the tools you put out there are the ones that you are going to be asked to do. So only pick the ones that excite you. When I first entered the industry, I noticed there was like a little gap in the agency for coding. So I was like, I'm going to learn coding. I'm going to be that guy. And then a fellow coder said, hey, do you want people to ask you to code a lot? And I was like, not really. And they're like, then don't learn it. Only learn the things that you want to do and enjoy. And if you don't enjoy those things, it might be, an early sign for you to do something else. And that's okay too. I think taste testing and realizing what things really make you tick are important because I have had lots of people come to me that are like 40-year-olds that are like, I want to have a career shift. I want to do graphic design now. And I'm like, do it. What's stopping you? And so like, there's a lot of people that think that once they get into a thing, they have to stick with it forever. You don't. You have the freedom to walk away. You have the freedom to pivot and do all those things. And the interesting thing about creative fields is that the things you learn on one will in some capacity translate to something else. It's really interesting how that happens too. My wife is a great example. My wife started in account management within an ad agency. She then was like, oh, I like the strategic side. She went to strategy. And then I was like, hey, you're a better artist than me. Why don't you do design? She's like, I didn't go to school for it. I was like, you need to try it. She became an art director, raised up the ladder. She is now a CD with me. We're a little CD duo. But she like all the things she learned from the strategy side and the account side and understanding what a client is looking for ultimately made her a better art director.
right.
Um, so all of it's interchangeable. So you can't make a wrong decision of which way to go.
Badass, the team, the duo CD, I love it.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a couple questions that are in some way a bit similar. So there's a question, as a UX designer, the images of my projects aren't always very aesthetically pleasing. I don't always have a prototype or archetype to show only documentations of the design process, IG, for example, photos, screenshots, etc. Should I still put these images up on the portfolio or in a grid format? And then second question that's a little bit different, but when it comes to images of work that you've done throughout the years that don't have the best resolution, is it best to leave it out of the portfolio? I feel like those are kind of like two things that we can
Yeah.
answer together. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to work backwards. So the resolution issue can make your portfolio look underwhelming / more junior. And you want to be coming with the most professional version of yourself. With that being said, first throw it through a few AI algorithms. AI upscalers are real and they are pretty good. So don't be afraid to use AI to kind of bring life back to your old projects that may be out of res. And then what was what was the first question? Sorry.
The first question was about UX, like a UX designer who was saying basically like I have a lot of like prototypes and things that are not
Oh,
super
yeah.
designed, how do I show that? Do I put that in a
For
grid
sure.
format? Yeah.
Yeah. So think of your portfolio as if you're presenting it to a client. And so if you were to make a presentation, say it's a keynote or a PowerPoint or whatnot, and you were to make pages that are designed with your stuff, would you use those screenshots on those pages? Would you use that documentation on those pages to help tell your story? If it's still compelling when you do that, then I would say go for it. If you put things in and you're like, it looks kind of like a mess, then I would just work to refine it and make it look more aesthetically pleasing. Because again, we are in a visual communication field.
Yes.
Also, very structured and clean design makes it just easier to browse work too. And so you want to keep that in mind too. If you kind of just throw everything at the wall and then just be like, check it out, like it may not be the best, you may not get the best reaction.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. You got to curate as much as possible, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
this is. So I have Tyra saying thank you for all these great answers, really helping all of us. I've been getting, I think that's a great question. I've been getting into using LinkedIn, Behance Net, and creating a design account on Instagram. Would you say posting on these platforms regularly will help to get new jobs, to build my personal design brands?
Sure. Yeah, building your own personal brand is a struggle at first. You're not going to know a zillion people. My best piece of advice is to keep posting on all the things,
Yeah,
right? You never know where you're going to get seen. So if you make something that you're proud of, throw it on Behance, throw it on Instagram. You make sure to tag it up with a lot of hashtags and things to hopefully get it found. But yeah, post it anywhere you possibly can. LinkedIn, all of the things. Ultimately, it only takes one post to get seen for one person, even if it's just one person to kind of join your community. And then if you really want to grow, the best option also is to spend real time going through like-minded people and others and commenting and interacting with their stuff too, because that's ultimately going to draw more and more people to your page to continue to enhance your own personal brand. As it pertains to jobs specifically, I also highly recommend, like I mentioned, freelancer.com or trying to get freelance work out there. Early in my career, that was a great way to grow from a job perspective, is because I would do a project for one person. It would turn into another project for another person,
right.
who then would turn into another person who, like, I got to work on stuff for NASA because they were 3 people away from a little tiny job. I made a little logo for someone for a massage, like they were a massage therapist. And that
Yeah,
ultimately landed me to NASA, which is pretty freaking cool. And then you're making all sorts of stuff. And so just like, even if that's what, again, please don't money chase, even if it's making a logo for like $40 and you're like, cool. And I'm going to spend some real time on this because I'm going to make it good for my portfolio. That's okay to do, right? You're gaining experience, you're gaining a portfolio piece, and you're gaining that connection, which will hopefully turn into more jobs from that connection and maybe even some from the next.
totally. And freelance is such a game of referral anyway, so it's a good
Yeah.
way to think about it. So I have a question from Shrutidar who is saying, how do I brand myself to potential employers if my portfolio features a diverse range of work, like spanning from graphic design, interaction design, research service design, case studies, in parentheses as a master's student with 3+ years in the industry experience?
Yeah, I love it. So one thing we run into quite often is we hit a portfolio where it lacks a little bit of focus. And as important as it is,
Sorry,
oh,
let me
sorry.
mute.
As important as it is to show breadth and range, it also is important to have a general focus. So, with that being said, it's like if you're going for a interactive design position, for example, make sure you're showing mostly interactive design work, right? And if you do have work that's outside of that, and something else, it might warrant its own portfolio that you send for people for that job, right?
Right.
But ultimately, a reviewer doesn't want to get to a portfolio, look at it, and be like, what does this person want to do? Or more importantly, will they be happy with the projects I have at my shop? Maybe I don't offer, I see a lot of art direction portfolios where they come in and there's campaign work and graphic design work and all this stuff. But there's also a ton of photography, which photography is a great skill to have, right? I would usually tell an art director, hey, put that in an extra section. It's still a great capability to show. But if all of your portfolio is photography, then I'm going to start to question, like, I don't have that many photography projects. Are they going to be happy working with me? And like, you start to that lack of focus and kind of defining what it is that you want to do can be a red flag. So I do want to be kind of upfront about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important advice. Question from Diego who's saying, I think the first part of the question we kind of answered, but would you recommend, having diverse projects to showcase different set of skills? But the second part, I think, we've kind of talked about range, right, which is super important. But the second thing I think is what are skills, what skills are most in demand right now? I think
Sure.
that's a great question.
Sure. It's interesting. It's an interesting time. I mentioned AI and, AI is not something to fear, by the way. We can get into that at any point. I know we only have a couple minutes left, so I won't go into the AI world yet. But showing that you have dabbled in AI is nice. Showing that you have dabbled in things that are slightly outside of what you thought. Like maybe you're a graphic designer, but you are playing with animation. You are playing with 3D. I think 3D and animation skills in general are sought after because not everybody can do them. Even art directors that I work with now, like they'll come to my team. They might have had 6 years of experience. They just didn't really touch those programs. And I'm like, let's touch those programs. Like, let's get those skills up. And so it's important to just make yourself, a jack of all trades. And what's great is AI is just going to open up what we can do as these kind of creative puppeteers. We're essentially going to take new tools from different places to make things and create what's in our head. And that's only going to get more and more efficient and easier to do with AI. So it's really an exciting time. But ultimately, I would tell you is just keep dabbling. The biggest industry trends and skills that are the ones that you see out there in the ads and the things that are winning awards. So look at award annuals for reference, see what's won. Maybe there was a whole commercial that was made with AI in a day. You've seen some of those news outlets out there, and follow suit. Learn the things that are happening out there. So maybe don't make digital banner ads for your portfolio because some of that's on the way out, though some are very successful, weirdly enough. But social media marketing, really big. So don't be afraid of social media. It's one of the most undervalued kind of pieces as well because it's so cheap for the perfect targeting that you can get with it.
Right.
So yeah, learn everything that's out there.
I love that. I feel like we need to do a new workshop about AI,
Yeah,
with you on that, like an hour on
yeah,
it.
I'm down.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much. I want to be mindful of the time because like we're obviously at the end. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get through all of your questions, you all. There were so many good ones, but hopefully, you got some key elements here. Kevin, really appreciate you for being real always with us and giving us, what we need to know. Thank you for being a great coach. And thank you all also for being here. If you're already on those types of calls, you're already on that game and you're already maybe a step ahead of a lot of other people who don't take the time to actually go on these talks and hear from industry professionals. So you're all doing a great work already, and we're looking forward to seeing your updated portfolio. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Feel free to follow us also on our end with ArtBound on Instagram if you all want to see more content and more events. Yeah, have a great rest of your day for our Australian crew. Have a great night for our US crew. And thanks everybody so much. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye, everyone. See you all. Bye.